I'm your host, Daniel Martinez. Today I have special co-host Kyle Thompson with me, and I have a special guest, Mr. Darcy Marler. Now, Darcy Marler has been a real estate investor for over 20 years, and we're going to have a good conversation today I'm excited about today. Hope you all stay tuned. So, Darcy, what part of the country are you from today?
Actually, I'm in Canada, so Calgary, Canada.
Canada. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We've had a few Canadians on the podcast. Have you always been in Canada, or did you invest in the United States at all?
I've done the U.S. as well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've had a few Canadians on the show. Do you like, and this is a preference, but do you prefer investing in Canada or United States?
It's a lot better now to do it in the United States, especially what I'm doing with the development, the new construction. The permitting part is just way, way shorter in the U.S., and you can get things done a little quicker.
That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Now, this is a good question for you. So when did you start investing in the U.S., and was there like a pivot point where some law came about or something that made you like, I should invest in the U.S. now?
No, that's not. It's been recent, the last few years. So I'm in the province of Alberta, which is in the west, north of Montana. It's kind of like Texas. We're conservative and oil and gas and cowboys and all that. So, but because of the oil and gas, we're prone to these booms and busts. So I've done development about 9 different jurisdictions, but I just got tired of that, right? So I want to invest in places that are, just a little more, given my gray hair, I want things to be a little more even keel and consistent and not too much excitement. So, yeah, so places like Houston or Texas and Florida are great places to be for that.
Amazing. What type of development are you doing in the States right now?
So a couple things. So I'm doing some new construction in Florida, and then also I just did a money raise to do some raw land development in Houston. In Houston or Dallas, I'm still trying to find the piece of dirt, but yeah, I raised about $1 million too, and I'm looking to buy whatever that'll buy me, 20 acres, let's say, and develop some raw lots, and then sell those to builders and let them build out the homes.
What part of Florida are you investing in?
Or the Gulf side, so in that Fort Myers, Cape Coral, St. Petersburg area along the Gulf Coast there.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great area right now. I'm in Orlando.
Okay.
The area is booming right now for land. Lehigh Acres and Fort Myers, Cape Coral, that whole area is just a lot of infill lots, and we've sold some infill lots there too.
I think, there's migration all over the states, typically from kind of the higher tax, higher bureaucracy kind of areas to the lower tax. So from the Californias, the New Yorks, the Chicago's down south. But even within like a Florida, like for me personally, the Atlantic side, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, that's just too crazy, too stressful, too much driving. I personally like the more laid back atmosphere of the Gulf and even into Orlando. So I think you're seeing movement even between states there.
I 100% agree.
But let's talk about investing in Canada. 23 years is a long time. I think it's a lot of experience. Were you always doing development, or did you start off in single family and doing other stuff first, or what was like your kind of journey into?
No, so I used to be a computer guy years ago. I don't know why that's a very common theme in real estate investing. Everybody comes from IT. Anyway, so from the late 90s into the 2000s, I actually was living and working full time in South America, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, Brazil. Loved it. Met my wife down there. Kids were born there. Got burnt out. Didn't want to see another computer, so I came back. And I'd always been interested in real estate. So, pretty much all they teach is flips and rentals and Airbnb now. But back in the day, it was just flips and rentals. So, I guess I'll do some flips. And I started to do that. And a couple of those didn't sell. Okay, so now I guess I'm a landlord. And that started the journey. But I've done pretty much everything. Flips, long and short term. Rentals, flip spurs, condo conversions, new construction, land development. So I get bored easy. So I was flipping around doing all this kind of stuff. And again, like I said, you just get tired of the booms and busts and say, no, I just want to get off the roller coaster and make it a bit easier.
So one thing I really want to hit on, I think it's funny because me and Kyle, we're both land guys. We do a lot of land stuff, but why land? After everything you've done, why land? Because a lot of people, they don't understand land, and I think you kind of understand land a little bit here. So why, after doing everything, you end up doing land development?
So let me say why I don't like some of the other stuff, I guess. So I've had close to 1,000 tenants, 240 doors in my day. So I just never enjoyed the rental part. Never liked the tenants and the toilets, the fixing up old crap. Never liked the 8 or 10 year. I got to hold this thing with a JV partner for that long before I get the appreciation. So basically nothing really about that whole world I enjoy. On the project side, the flips, the condo conversions, that I was my own on-site supervisor. So you're down at the site every day. Again, you're fixing up old crap. You're at Home Depot every day for 18 years. You just get bored and tired. So it attracts me to the new construction, land development, land parceling, some of the entitlement strategies that we'll talk about here. It's new. You get to do with new buildings and you get to be creative and you get to, literally watch your, whether it's horizontal, you get to see the dirt get moved around and trenches being built and pipe being put in the ground, and then you're building the roads. If you're going vertical, you get to see the house or the fourplex or whatever you're building coming out of the ground. So the sense of pride is just, you can't compare it. You're sitting back at the end and you're watching this fourplex that you just built versus renovating a 1950s piece of crap. Like, the sense of pride is just way, way different. So I that's kind of what I'm addicted to is that. I've done some subdivisions and you drive through that even today, and just the sense of pride. This exists on this planet because I did that. That's a pretty cool feeling. People have housing because of me. Like that's cool.
Great, absolutely. We resonate with that a lot. Plus, I grew up on a farm, so maybe I like the smell of dirt. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it too. But.
No, I think the coolest thing is that you have a clean. It's like an artist. There's a clean slate canvas that you get to create and mold something that's going to be there for a long time. It might change in the future, who knows, but at least it'll be there for probably 30 to 40 years, and at least you kind of molded that future.
But, so even if I'm doing the burst strategy or flips or whatever, I've got this 1950s, it's 1,000 square feet, 7.5 foot ceilings, bedrooms are 9 by 9. I can't, maybe I knock out a wall to, they used to have the kitchen and the living room separate. I knock out the wall. Now it's one big room. But, even if I get the latest cabinetry and flooring and lighting fixtures, it's still dated, like you said. So it's not a clean slate. You're working with the existing limitations of that building. Here, everything's brand new, clean slate, clean canvas, and you can really, if you want 9 foot ceilings on both the main floor and the second floor, go nuts, do whatever you want.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. How are you securing financing for these projects, and like what type of project deal size are you looking for?
So I did let's say Houston, for example. So I did the money raise first, and that's becoming more and more. I think that's going to be more and more of a bigger thing. A lot of times now you'll go, if you don't have the money, for example, you find the property is kind of the traditional way of doing it, but more and more now the seller or the seller's realtor is going, okay, you have proof of funds, you got some money, you're going to waste my client's time for the next 3 or 4 months while you go and frantically raise money. So I did the money raise first. And so now that kind of limits you. It doesn't necessarily limit you, but it limits you on the size of the project, right? So, let's say on north part of Houston, acreages cost, $250,000 an acre. Well, I'm going to be able to buy so much land. Someplace else where it's $50,000 an acre, I can buy more. Over here, it's $20,000 to $30,000 an acre. I can buy more, right? If I go more into the inner city, maybe I can only afford a couple of acres and do apartment buildings. So, there's kind of pros and cons against everything. If you finding the land first, then you got to raise the money. If you raise the money first, then you might be looking at different size of scope, and you got to be flexible on the amount of land. But the other thing, as far as financing goes too, is what's great about this world, the development world, is that because of the housing crisis, there's government incentives, rebates, helping the financing with that, so that you've got a lot more options for that in this development world as compared to flips and rentals, because we're adding units and helping, like I said, the housing crisis. So there's a lot more options in the financing in this world, I feel.
How are you finding those financing options that are maybe state or local wide? Is there like a tip or trick to that?
Yeah, so typically, at all 3 levels, you've got the municipal level, the state level, and then the federal level. There's different things available. Like I said, it could be a tax rebate, an incentive program. Maybe it's, instead of the financing being traditionally 75% loan to cost for the construction loan, maybe you can get up into the 85 or 90, so a lot less cash required. But just kind of, you're looking in doing Google searches at the municipal or state or federal level, depending what you're trying to do. Specifically, if you're doing multifamily, like kind of over 5 units, if you're building apartment buildings, whatever, there's quite a bit available there because, the government's trying to incentivize in certain places that we're building more units. The other thing I talk about too is typically we think of land development as just outside, the outskirts of town, urban sprawl. We're just growing out there, big companies, building 1,000 tract homes. I kind of bring it down to kind of normal size investors level. Well, let's just start with an old house on a 50-foot lot. What can we do with that? Well, we can tear down the house and build a 4-plex or a 6-plex. More in the inner city, we can help revitalize neighborhoods, kind of normalize neighborhoods like that. So again, the government's right into that too. They like to see that. There's always ability, to if you're building kind of for the lower income crowd or for seniors, there's lots of information and stuff. There's again incentives to do that.
Interesting. How are you managing like boots on the ground? Because do you come to the States often, or do you have contractors you work with that locally in different areas? Or
so I'll answer that a couple ways. So one of the things, like I said, I was on-site supervisor all the time doing my own stuff, and you get bored of it, right? And then you realize, you don't have to be a lone wolf. You can delegate some of this stuff, right? Absolutely. So Houston, I've been down Houston like 5 times in the last couple of years. Getting a lay of the land. Building the team, figuring out what's different about it, and there's a little bit different. I knew Houston fairly well. Like I said, I was in South America in the late '90s. My client was a U.S.-based multinational oil company out of Houston, so I traveled to Houston quite a bit, so I know it quite well. But you just got to get up to speed with what's new. So basically, you're building your team. You're learning which parts of the city you're best for what. There's kind of a different. Houston's kind of unique in that. Up north of the city in the Woodlands Conroe area, it's very, very wet, very lush, some really great trees there. If you go west into the Katy area, it's really dry, right? So again, you've got some different things you got to learn about. There's, some flood issues there. You might find a beautiful piece of dirt, but you look up a flood map, and in the 100-year storm, you're going to lose 80% of the lot. So these are kind of some of the things you got to worry about when you're looking for land there.
Do you prefer one market over the other? Do you prefer Texas over Florida, or is it just doesn't really matter to you?
I prefer, again, one of the things that I'm used to, like I said, the up and downs, but the other thing is it does take longer to get permits. So I've got Darcy-isms, and one of them is in and out quick. So if I can get a permit, in 3 to 5 weeks versus, 10 months, I like that a lot. So I like the South because that's where people are moving to. So, you got the demographics that will back up adding new units. You've got a lower dependable workforce, a lower cost workforce. You've got a lot less bureaucracy, a lot less fees and permits, a lot less time to do it. So it's kind of the overall, the government involvement is as small as possible. And then, are people moving there? You don't want to be, you don't want to start and build 10 units in a town where they're boarding up Main Street kind of thing, right? So the demographics have to go with it as well.
Exactly. So in the case of Florida and Texas, because we've only done some bigger projects, entitlements in Texas, what's the difference there between the timelines that you're working with in Florida as opposed to Texas? If you're looking at like apples to apples on a deal, like maybe like some sort of entitlement deal that is very similar to Texas and Florida, but timeline-wise.
Yeah, so again, even within the Texas, like you've got San Antonio, which is longer. They call San Antonio blue city in a red state kind of thing, right? So again, you kind of even within this, I can't even globally say Texas is perfect all over it. But that's part of, all strategies, and I've done everything. There's pros and cons to everything, right? Rentals, you got tenants, and like I said, 8 or 10 years to get it done. Flips, you're always on the hunt. There's a lot of pressure for me to find the next one to keep my team busy. Kind of the downside of the development world is you got to spend some time up front, learning what's different. We're taught, all we know, most of us, is flips and rentals. So, what is zoning and density? What is highest and best use? How do you increase the value of land? But another thing is geographically, where are we going to be? Because it is such a, this place will take, 3 months to approve my zoning change. This place takes 2 years, right? And everything in between. So we're investors. We want to kind of get in and out quick. So let's not play in the 2-year place. Let's play more in the 3-4 month place. So that's part of
time.
The building part's actually pretty easy, right? Like lots of people know how to build stuff. So it's more let's take some time, think like investors. Let's, learn what we got to learn. Let's figure out where we're going to do it. Start to analyze that, put the deal together, put the funding together. But then our team's doing all the back and forth with the city, getting our permits. So it's actually a pretty good return on time. We can just sit back and think like investors, and at the point where we're ready to go, our team will kind of take over.
So you keep talking about your team. It sounds like you built out a pretty good team. So are you using like agents for boots on the ground, or I know Daniel kind of touched on it a little bit. Who are you using for your main boots on the ground? Like who's like, if you needed someone to go walk something for you, like who's the first person you're going to call?
So, no, good question. So basically we got some new players as opposed to the flip and rental world. So a realtor is more involved here. A realtor kind of comes in 3 places. One is they'll help you find the initial land or the original old house to knock down. They can help with the filling out of the back end napkin pro forma. What is my end sale going to be, or if I'm going to build it and keep it in my rental portfolio, what can the rents be when I finish building this stuff. And then finally at the end, they'll help you sell it as well. So a realtor kind of takes on a different road there. We're dealing with surveyors, civil engineers. If we're doing the horizontal, we're civil engineers, planners. If we're going vertical, then we're into architects or architectural technology. So we got some new players. And so when I'm down there, depending what I do, right? So if once you get to the point, let's say I'm going vertical and I'm building a fourplex or something, you put you get to the stage where everything's approved and you got your final blueprints, you put it out for tender and you get some bids and you go with, a final builder. Okay, so now they're boots on the ground. You have regular talks with them a couple of times a week. Another couple of tips, with technology now, you can stick a camera on a post in the corner and just hook it up to the internet, so you can kind of keep a watch all the time on, did any work get done today or not? Yeah. And then, I've done this in the past too, where you just hired a local inspector and just paid him a couple $100 a week, no reports or anything, just walk around the site and doing good, or no, the blocking wasn't too great. So I talked to your foreman about that and you can kind of get it around that way. But, you still want to make kind of regular trips, but you can do a lot of this stuff far away nowadays.
Absolutely. So are you doing more of, because we call ourselves almost like paper pushes, where we're not trying to do a lot of the vertical work? Are you doing a lot more vertical work at this point, or are you kind of trying to shy away from it?
I personally like that. I think there's 3 stages to development. There's kind of the paperwork only, entitlement, paper lot, strategy, whatever you call it, where you're just changing zoning or density and selling it, or you're maybe potentially getting your architect to design that fourplex, get the building permits approved, and now you got a shovel-ready package. Lot assembly where you knock on the neighbor's door. Maybe now instead of just a 50-foot lot, now you got 250s, you got 100. What do you do with that? So there's that kind of paperworky stuff. There's lot prep where you're actually, whether it's 20 acres on the outskirts of town or an old, just a regular lot in the inner city, out with the old, in with the new, what you got to get rid of, maybe the old house, rickety old fence, the driveway, whatever, maybe some ground clearance if you're bigger. So there's kind of the lot prep where you're actually creating service lots to sell to a builder. And then the third part is I'm actually going to build something. Again, out quick. So I like typically, if you're doing a big project, I say don't do all 3. Pick a lane because it just takes a long time. If you're doing that, then it can be a 3, 4, 5 year project, a phased project. Stuff happens, economies change, interest rates change, governments change. So in and out quick is a big thing. But again, you can match it to your strategy, your personality. Like, what do you want? Like, maybe you just want paperwork. Perfect. In and out, 4 or 5 months, make a profit. Boom. Right. Or you like dirt. You like the smell of dirt. Let's build a subdivision. So the great thing about development is there's all these entry and exit points. You don't have to finish, right? So you can just pick a lane that you like and stick with it and enjoy it more.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Are you doing anything vertical right now? What does that look like?
I'm just starting to, yeah. So again, talking to a few builders, but more on, like I said, the Gulf side of Florida, in and out quick. You can typically, because of the housing crisis, I talk a lot about let's come back with higher density and that. But the ability to buy a vacant lot and build a house in 10 months and, make a pretty good return in 10 months with the builder doing all the work, that looks pretty good too, right? So I don't mind that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned Darcyisms. Can you mention a few of your favorite Darcyisms?
Yeah.
So I feel like the wisdom is experience over time.
So in and out quick. Like I said, governments change, interest rates change, costs change. So you're typically better off in and out quick. Don't paddle upstream. By that I mean don't fight City Hall. If you've heard horror stories about development, it's usually because the developer tried to do something they knew they weren't going to be allowed to do. So let me give you an example. So let's say I'm just dead set on building a 24-unit apartment building, for example. Well, I have to be flexible on where I do that. I either have to go where it's already zoned and allowed, or have a reasonable expectation of having that approved if I apply for approval. If I'm dead set on developing in this neighborhood, in this community, well, then I have to be flexible on what I build, because only certain things are going to be allowed. There's a range. Every community, every neighborhood, every city has a range of what you can build in each place, right? And, it's kind of a square peg round hole. If you're butting heads, no, damn it, I want the 24-unit apartment building here, and they're only allowing duplexes and fourplexes, you're in for a rough go. So it's kind of like don't fight City Hall, And then in and out, or out with the old, in with the new is the other one, right? So what's there existing now that I need to get rid of? Again, old house, driveway, garage, rickety fence in the back, some trees. And then in with the new, what is the builder going to need from me as the developer? Maybe it's an old house, so, the size of the water line coming in was really small, but now I'm going to have an 8-plex there. Okay, a lot more water use. I'm going to have to upsize the water line. So out with the old, in with the new works, and it works on every size of the project. I built a horse track and a casino. The process is the same. What's there that I have to get rid of, and what do I have to put in and to make the new dream work? So there's 3 right there, 3 Darcyisms.
Let's talk about the horse track. Is that in Canada? Getting a horse track done?
Yeah. So 20 years ago now, a group of horse owners, kind of high net worth people, wanted to build a new track in my town of Calgary. The old track was like 80 years old and didn't really work anymore. So, we're great economy, life is good. They got partway down the road, and then the 08 recession hit. And so now basically they're $108 million in debt. They've got the foundations in, and that's about it. So they brought me in to kind of to repicture that, kind of turn that around. And so I was able to, we actually we're in the Canadian equivalent of Chapter 13, where we kind of were just frozen, and the courts froze our creditors, and we were allowed time to kind of work out a deal to kind of get out. So I got us from 108 million in debt down to about 30. I partnered with a company out of Austria that was on the NASDAQ, Century Gaming out of Austria. So they kind of brought in the new money. I sold the land. I sold all the land and then leased it back as a way to raise some money. So by doing these kind of creative things, we were able to kind of get out of creditor protection or Chapter 13 and actually go ahead and build this track. That was from 2009. It took me 6 years till 2015 till we were actually running, but we're 9 years in now, and horses are running around the track, and people putting dollars into the slot machine. So it's actually a pretty cool story.
Wow, that's that's a lot of ingenuity to make that happen. Because even reaching out to another country's gaming, to raise money, that's smart.
But that's cool. That's the cool thing about development too, right? Is it can be small, just one house, knock it down, build a duplex. It can be massive, right? So that's another thing about development that I love is you really get to use your brain and be creative and do lots of different things.
So you talk about creative. How often are you using like creative finance? You just talked about leasing back the property, and we Daniel and I, we love creative finance. How often are you using it?
Quite a bit. Like, one of the things I kind of talk about a lot is can you partner with the seller? And I teach about 11 or 12 different ways to do that. Different in the flip and rental world, I need the seller to leave because I got to renovate their place, right? Yep. They can't say, so, you got agreement for sale, VTB, you're kind of limited. Here, ideally, if I can partner with the seller so that I can, everybody says, "Oh, Darcy, everything here is 800, it's 800,000 for that old crappy knockdown house in where I live, right? So it doesn't work." Well, if you can partner with a seller, you don't have to buy the property, right? Let them live there while you're getting your permits, cutting the grass, paying the insurance, and all that. Now, your cost, your money is only needed for permits and fees and some engineering to get whatever permits you're going for. So it's a great way to kind of save cash and use a lot less cash. At the end, you've got the permits you want. Now, maybe you sell it to a builder and you pay the seller the amount you've agreed on plus some kind of split or whatever terms some kind of bonus for playing with you. Or maybe you do want to go do the horizontal and the vertical. So now you've worked out an exit strategy where you can pay the original seller, so they get a little bit of a bonus for working with you over those few months, whatever. So it's a really, really cool way to really expand your options. We're always talking about we got to have JV money partners. Well, if you can partner with the seller, that saves you having a need for a ton of money. So it really, really helps a lot being creative like that.
That's one thing that gravitated us towards this game too. Is again, you could just be so much more creative. You have a lot more options to do, and it's just a lot of times it's just dirt. Like there's not as much emotion involved, so it's just a lot easier to get some creative terms going.
Just let me tell you a real quick story. So a student of mine out of Seattle, actually his hometown is Charleston, South Carolina. He was stuck working in Seattle, making good money, newlywed. So pressure from the home front to quit the job and come back home. He'd done some wholesaling, didn't like it, really negative, lots of negative feedback from those flyers that come out. So he saw me and this is what I want to do, right? So quit his job, moved back because he's got 3 projects on the go and just one real quick. So he found some land that right now is zoned for 2 houses. An older couple that had hoped that their son would end up building there. He didn't want it. They know that they can sell it and build, but the new houses that would go in, the 2 new houses would be like 900,000 or $1 million. And she's a retired nurse, and she said, "Well, I would never be able to live there, so I want this to be more affordable." So my student came to her and said, "Yeah, we can do that, but I need time, right? So give me 6 months to see if I can get the zoning to build 10 or 14 townhouses, and then there'll be a lot more need for that, like lower income housing, right?" Mm-hmm. And so she loved that. So that's what they're doing. So to buy the land was $195,000. To get, just to kind of the next level up zoning or entitlement is like $20,000 of fees.
Yep.
If you had 120, you could actually rezone it and do the whole full 14, right? So he said, "Well, I got the 195, Darcy, but I don't have the 120. I can do either or." I said, "Well, once you're a little bit further along, once you're confident that you're going to be able to get the exit that you want and that the city's on board with this, why don't you go back to the older couple, because they want it, like they want to work with you, they've proven that, and say, hey, why don't we rip up the old contract, and instead of 195, what if I pay you like 230 or 250? I'll pay you 50,000 non-refundable now, but then the rest won't come until the end, till the final exit. So that saves, you've got the 195. Well, now you've got 50 out of pocket. Now you've got the 120 where you can actually do the full entitlement, do the full shovel-ready package, and get the much higher return, the much higher profit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Kind of a light bulb moment for us. Yeah, I can do that. But again, just being creative, figuring this out. And again, so he can sell it, he can flip it for $25,000 tomorrow. If he does just kind of the little bump, there's about $100,000 worth of profit in there. If he goes the full way, gets it shovel ready, there's probably about $300,000, $350,000 profit for him if he can do the full thing. So that's kind of some of the numbers that are involved sometimes too.
I like our whole strategy, and this is why I like bigger stuff, is I don't even negotiate on price. If anything, I want to get them their price and then some. And that's really how I play that angle. Yeah. So a lot of smaller other asset classes, you have to beat people up on price because you can't make money any other way. You have to beat people up on prices. With development, you kind of have a blank canvas to create value at X, and whatever X is, price doesn't matter. Price is relevant.
Terms are more important here, I think, than in a lot of the other situations. Like this gentleman here, like my student, like he hated wholesaling because he's sending out these flyers to the neighborhood. not hearing back from anybody he wants, but he's hearing all these nasty emails and phone calls, you SOB kind of thing. Because the flyer says, I'll buy your land 30 cents on the dollar, right? Well, this is just a total nicer vibe. You're going there, you're sitting down with a couple. If I can hit your fair market value, it's price or term, right? There's that old maxim, you can have price or terms, but not both. I'll meet your price, but I need 6 months, 10 months, whatever. And here's what that looks like. And then we can either share some of the profits or, as it go further along, I can make payments in stages because I'm more comfortable that the end exit is what I want it to be, right? So there's a lot more, it's more positive. You get to, this lady, she wanted, retired nurse, she wanted some more affordable housing. So my student says she was actually crying. She was so happy that they'd worked out this deal, right? So, it's just a whole different vibe than kind of the traditional wholesaling.
So you mentioned earlier about the 11 ways to get creative financing. Can you kind of cover some of those ways?
Yeah, so we've touched on a few of them. So how do you partner with the seller? So, can you pay you work out kind of a split at the end. So, I'm going to take it to here. Here's the exit for me, whether it's just entitlement or whether we're going to go a little further. So there's maybe some kind of split. I've seen people kind of rent. I'll rent your house for, the 6 or 10 months that you're going to still live there and you're still going to cut the grass and you're doing everything. But, so basically it's just ways to find so that you don't have to kind of make the big bull, typically, people just, I'm going to buy your house, 30-day close, 45-day close, boom, I got arranged financing. Is there a way to work with the seller so that, okay, you've matched my price and here's, how can I incentivize you to work with me for 6 or 10 months? What does that look like? All kinds of, different ways to do that. Maybe, I really loved living here. I don't really want to move, but whatever. Okay, well, how about we're going to build these townhouses and how about you get one at the end? Something like that, right? And, maybe there's a plus or minus. You got to fill the money difference a little bit, but, can we work out some kind of, I'd love that, so just getting creative. A lot of times we just assume that the seller wants to sell quick and the most amount of money, but, just kind of ask questions and shut up and listen, I say, because, maybe my wife's sick. I don't want to sell quick. I'd love to stay here for a year while you're doing that. That works out perfectly for me, right? Unless you ask those questions, you don't kind of figure that out, right? So that's again, I love this stuff too. It's all kinds of different. It's creative. I love creativity.
What is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
Sorry, what's that?
What is the quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
Don't skip leg day. So, I say that as a joke, but it kind of does say, don't just focus on, building one strength. You've kind of got to be multifaceted in this real estate investing game. So, you got to have different hats at different times. So, you got to make sure you have some skills. Or if you don't have the skills, then find the partner that does. Like I said, I was a lone wolf guy all my career. I would have benefited more by having an operational partner. So, for example, I love the hunt. I love the front part. I love putting it together. I love being creative on the deal, designing all that. It was kind of a down day for me when I got the keys to the apartment building, whatever I was buying, because now I had to execute. And I don't like the execution part. I would have been better off focusing on this while somebody else did the nuts and bolts of the building that was really good at that. So kind of don't skip leg day brings all that into it. If you find somebody that's strong where you're weak and kind of be more well-rounded. So.
Any other questions, Kyle? This is good.
That's it right now. I'm glad we're in the same space. I love land. Daniel loves land, man. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love that you like creative finance because it's something we use daily. I mean, we just made an offer $700,000 over list price if they gave us their terms. So it's a lot of fun to be able to do that for sellers, and it surprises them and shows that we're serious as well.
Yeah. And, I've got another group I'm working with that, there's like 200 acres of land, raw land, one house on it. You can sell it today for the seller could sell it for $850. The pitch to them was it's going to be a 3-year phased play. You'll get paid some now, but, some after year 1, year 2, year 3, they'll probably end up making about $1.4 million, $1.5 million when it's all done. And that's just so that saves all the cash that the group doesn't have to, lay out all the money for the original piece of dirt.
Yep. It's we always try and explain that to our sellers. Like if we raise the money, it's probably going to cost us more. So if you want more money, let's negotiate. I'm multiple. Let's make a deal happen.
Yeah, and sometimes they say no. I just want my money. Fair enough. But if you can find that person, what I'm trying to find usually is in my space. Let's find the couple in their 60s that have owned the house. Their kids grew up there. They've been in there 20 years. And dad knows that he could sell it tomorrow for a good buck, but he's also seen the other developers come in the area and make a profit. And he wants some of that. Dad's a little greedy, which is good. But he doesn't know how. Like, he's old, he's a little scared. So if you kind of come in and show them, work with me, and, we'll see the dream you have, we can kind of flesh that out together. So that's kind of the person you want, is that person that wants to be a developer, but doesn't know how as well as on the seller part. So.
Yeah, we always kind of mention that as well, where it's like, hey, think of us more of because when we do those type of JV partnerships where we bring in the engineering money, we come in, we do all the engineering work, we hire the civil engineer, we do all this. Think of us just as a partner here. We're here to teach it to you, we're here to show it to you, and we're here to bring the financing for you. Because most of the time, and I'm sure they're sometimes land is pretty illiquid, and we have to come in and tap into it and bring that potential to it.
And 99 times out of 100, the seller doesn't know any of that, right? Like, they just they're interested in, I see the other developers, I want to making a profit. I'd like to do some of that. I don't just want to sell my house or land or whatever for what it's worth. I want a piece of that too. Now you can open up their eyes too. And I didn't even know half that was possible. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So where can people find you online? This has been a really good episode. I have hrrealestatementors.com.
Yeah, that's a good one. Just Google, my darcymarler.com, all lowercase, all together. That'll find me. You can go to YouTube and just go Darcy Marler channel. That'll find me as well. I got like 130 videos online that talk just only about this, just development and new construction, land assembly, all this kind of stuff. So it's a really great resource for if you want to figure out more about this.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming and helping out, Kyle. For everybody here, go like, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Share with a friend. Thanks, guys. Bye. Hey, if you'd like to meet us in person, we do an annual event every year, thehiveslive.com/summit. We'll see you there. Have a good day.